Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. This is Camilo Tellis, and I'm the head of the Digital Payments Innovation Hub at the Better Than Cash Alliance. I hope you're all well. We're really excited for today's session on the UN Principles for Responsible Payments Digitization. As you all know, COVID-19 has supercharged the adoption of digital payments, and there is an opportunity to build trust, mitigate risks, and continue to drive inclusive economies. This can really only be achieved through the responsible digitization of payments. And the UN principles, which actually the Alliance released along with its members about a month ago, advocate for what it means to be responsible, who needs to be responsible, and how to be responsible. So, in the context of this, we have nine overarching principles, which I will go through in a second. But first, the panel will cover the overview of this principles, and then we'll have a moderated discussion with three fantastic government officials, three of our government members, actually, Colombia, Ghana, and India, to share their experience on responsible practices. So first, let me just give a quick welcome to Ms. Ana Maria Prieto Ariza. She's the Deputy Director for Market Development at the Ministry of Finance in Colombia. Welcome, Ana. Ana will be sharing the responsible practices from Colombia's Ingreso Solidario, which was the G2P program that was set up in response to COVID-19. Welcome, Ana.
Hi, Camila. Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor to be part of the panel. It's a very interesting conversation that we're going to have on responsible payments. Indeed, I believe the very best and most important principle is to treat clients and end customers fairly. And I'm sure we can discuss further all of these topics in the following questions. I also believe that provide user choice through interoperability is quite an important roadmap for all of the regulators and authorities. We often see end users still experience long delays, high fees, and limited options to transact. And all of these frictions preclude digital payments from achieving the same convenience, affordability, and utility as cash. So we need to promote a much more interconnected and collaborative payment system and balance protecting users' interest with ensuring commercial viability for providers to really unlock the benefits of digital inclusion. In Colombia, COVID-19 accelerated this path. It brought stronger demand for digital payments and stronger merchant acceptance as well. And so, taking advantage of the situation and guided by these high bar global standards, we have been accelerating policy adoption towards open and competitive payment networks. Specifically, we define new rules to bring non-bank acquirers and payment initiation services providers. And on top of that, we are building this new architecture, reshaping G2P payment design based on customer choice. Building on top of Ingreso Solidario experience, of course. To accomplish all of these goals, we have been following the three building blocks that are being suggested by the UN under the specific principle of interoperability. One, to have a participatory governance, engage providers to shape policies. I believe that's a very important aspect. Two, to build open technology frameworks and support the use of shared data and systems. And three, to have an ecosystem mindset and help incumbents find a business case under this new architecture. We can discuss further all of these topics along the panel, but in a nutshell, I believe we as regulators need to focus our attention in reshaping customer protection in the digital era. We need to move from the no harm approach to a more holistic and valuable view. And I believe all of the principles that you are highlighting in this new guide definitely help us, all of us. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. Welcome, Ana, again, and very exciting to hear all the great work that is happening in Colombia. Second, I would like to welcome Mrs. Patricia Adusei Boku. She's the Executive Director and Commissioner of the Ghana Data Protection Commission. She'll be sharing also responsible practices implemented by them, by the Commission, which is a multi-stakeholder body guiding Ghana's data protection journey. Welcome, Patricia.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be on the call.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Sri Pawan Kumar, who's the director of the Department of Economic Affairs at the Ministry of Finance in India. Pawan will be sharing all the great work. Many of us have obviously been following over the last decade the great work that India has done on developing shared public infrastructure, and the UPI, or Unified Payments Interface, is one of these examples. This gateway at the center of India's open and inclusive digital payments ecosystem. So welcome, Pawan.
Thank you, Camilo. It's an honor to be here, being a part of this panel discussion, and again, an honor to represent India. So both. So looking forward to the further discussions.
Fantastic. Well, welcome everyone again. Let's just go over the quick overview of the principles before we have also a couple polling questions, and then the panel. So before I start, I want to start with a question now for all of you. We're going to open it up only for 20 seconds. You'll be able to vote within the functionality of StreamYard. How many people globally use digital payments? There's three options: 1.5 billion, 3 billion, and more than 5 billion. Okay. I'm going to give 5 more seconds. Great. So I think we're closing the polls now, is my understanding. Let's just see what the results show us. So 50% of the people say actually only 3 billion. 25% say more than 5, and 25% say 1.5. So there's a bit of a split there. The actual answer is more than 5 billion people. In fact, in 2020, the number of registered mobile accounts grew by 12.7 grew by 12.7% to 1.2 billion accounts, which is actually double the forecasted growth rate. And of course, this only highlights that maintaining user confidence and safety and the accessibility of user funds is paramount. This data came from the GSMA. Now, I want to do a second polling questions, which is, if we move forward, how many more women and girls are estimated to fall below the poverty line in 2021? There are three options: 38 million, 47 million, and 16 million. Again, we're going to give everyone 10 seconds. Okay, we're closing the poll in about 5 seconds. Great. So we seem to see 50% of the people say 38 million, 50% of them say 47 million. So actually, half of them got the answer correct. The correct answer is 47 million more women and girls are estimated to fall below the poverty line. And this number just highlights the importance of all the work that we're doing on promoting gender equality and leveraging digital payments to promote digital financial inclusion for women and reduce the amount of women that are falling into poverty. So again, let's just actually run quickly through the principles, give you an overview. So as I was saying, COVID-19, has resulted in a seismic shift in terms of the number of payments that are being done. But of course, with all the innovations in fintech, in artificial intelligence, alternative data scoring, it only really highlights the importance of ensuring that all actors across the value chain are being responsible, following responsible practices. The UN principles for responsible digital payments really provide an actionable framework for us to really think, how do we build trust and equity for all? And in fact, this is an update to what we did in 2016 2016. Back then, they used to be called the responsible guidelines. But there's a big focus this time around on how to prioritize women, make sure that payments work every time, that they're fair, transparent, and accountable. And more importantly, that they're also offering clear recourse that everyone can actually access. So again, the 9 principles are a foundational aspect to how to build better economies in the aftermath of the pandemic. And we're hoping to continue to work with all our members to embed the responsible practices in all our work. And hopefully they can also embed responsible practices in all the work that they do. So continuing on to the next slide, I just want to show a quick video which highlights the principles. So apologies, I think we were having some audio issues. There's obviously some background music and quotes there, but I'll have to narrate live actually some of the content on it. But I think you've all seen the overview of what the principles are. I won't go again through all of them. You can access responsiblepayments.org to access all the resources. They're there in English, in French, and in Spanish. Here we have the tile with all of them. We'll be actually exploring them in more detail shortly. But I think also one thing that I wanted to as I move to the panel, just wanted to ask the 3 participants today, which amongst the 9 principles from your experience is the most crucial or are the most crucial in building trust, mitigating risks, and driving inclusive economies? So this first question is really general. I'm going to give each one of you 2 minutes to answer based on what we have experienced. Anna?
Thank you, Camilo. Yeah, I was at the beginning mentioning and highlighting those 2 those 2 principles. One, treating customers fairly, and second one, provide user choice through interoperability. I do believe those are very strong principles that help us to provide very responsible digital payments, but above that, to make sure that we can really unlock the value of digital payments and digital financial inclusion. If at the end, that end user can really make use of those digital payments as if it was cash, like the same on the same basis, trying to do payments and transaction whenever they need to, and without high cost and or trying to make a lot of process and operational or logistical aspects of or requirements. So I do strongly believe on the interoperability, and I will be discussing further on the following questions and panel discussion, because I believe that we did really a lot of learning on Ingreso Solidario about that importance on building a network, a very open network, a very ecosystem network at the end. And yeah, I'll stay with those 2 for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Open and inclusive. I mean, I think those are great design principles to have. Madam Poku, what about you? What about in Ghana? Which of the principles from your experience do you think are more important to building trust? I can see actually trust behind you.
As you can see in my background, I'm already promoting the 3Ts
I know.
nationwide to simplify the message to data controllers and data subjects alike on what each other should expect, the mutual expectation of the using digital platforms. That transparency is our top most important thing on both ends for especially collectors and developers to be thinking about in the economy to improve transparency, and that naturally opens up some other principles like accountable, like fairness, and all of that just by being transparent with each other. And we believe that that builds trust. So I didn't look into it to see where trust will fall within the man, but it builds trust, and both trust and transparency working together, we believe will deliver transformation in the ecosystem that we need. And that I find is all encompassing across many platforms and across different groups with principles as far as discussing issues within the digitized economy is concerned. And so we really like the idea of transparency and building trust amongst users and supply and the data controllers. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Madam Boku. Pawan, what about you from the Indian context?
Of course, all the principles, all these 9 principles are valuable, and to some extent, any payment system that has to, the responsible digital payment has to adhere to all of them. I second Anna when she mentioned about this providing user choices through interoperability. In fact, when you put citizen at the center of entire this financial inclusion exercise, then in that case, interoperability offers empowerment to the citizen concerned, because then it is sometimes very easy for designing a system to put you inside a silo wherein winner takes it all. That kind of a payment system, when it gets designed, in fact, it is very, very easy sometimes to get into that route. And interoperability, in fact, offers the power to citizens where they can use their own data for their own good. And so to that extent, yes, this is the most important principle, what we believe.
Very interesting. Thank you very much, Pawan. And obviously everyone is highlighting the principles, rooted in their own experiences. So I want to start now actually with the panel, and I want to ask Anna some questions, because I know, we've obviously been working very closely with the government of Colombia, for a number of years, but specifically in the context of the pandemic, Colombia really moved quickly and leveraged its digital payments infrastructure in the design and delivery of the emergency payment system for Colombians. And it did it in a way that was really, really interesting, because it really focused on public-private collaboration. And this is really praiseworthy. So I was wondering, Anna, if you could offer some insights in terms of how you leverage partnership agreements with digital payment providers to include these commitments to the principles and ensure fair treatment in the context of the design of Ingreso Solidario.
Sure, Cami. Let me begin with just a short explanation of Ingreso Solidario. Perhaps not everyone knows exactly what the program was about. So as you mentioned, this was the emergency program that we built on the through the pandemic. It's a non-conditional transfer program targeting 3 million vulnerable households affected by the pandemic, not covered by other CCT programs, 60% of them women. Initially, it was set for 3 monthly payments of around $40 each, but it was then expanded until December 2022. Colombian government managed to rapidly disburse digital payments to those 3 million households, and banked almost 1 million of those beneficiaries through mobile money accounts. And this success was possible thanks to effective public-private collaboration, appropriate regulations, mobile wallets reaching across the country, and a consolidated registry for social beneficiaries. Now, specifically on the public-private partnership, it was a very valuable during the implementation phase. We came up with this situation room where we brought 22 financial services providers on board as co-creators, basically, and set up very participant decision making to build trust among them. We discussed user barriers and how to mitigate risks together, and also enabling competition and comparative advantage among them. We then extended that partnership to local governments, who became key stakeholders in delivering the aid, especially, in rural areas. And we created a platform to exchange best practices and information as we moved forward, which obviously was very useful to create tailored, like solutions, and try to manage the situation as we encounter challenges in the road. This collaborative environment brought trust among stakeholders. Everyone was so engaged that we managed at the same time to have institutional adaptation and flexibility. Everyone was willing to explore and learn under this, user-centric approach. So this partnership was very useful, not only for Ingreso Solidario. I believe it was also meaningful as a public innovation learning, let's say, for us as regulators. And we have been implementing some of those learnings in many of our tasks after COVID and after Ingreso Solidario. For example, at our recent open finance regulatory draft that we just published for public comments last week, we kind of also open a lot the conversation and involved with the private sector as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Anna. And my understanding was that there was this situation room, right, where they brought in the various FSPs and really co-created actually some of these solutions. Could you tell us a little bit more about how that took place?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we created that situation room. We basically met every day, at the beginning through to make sure that we had a very strong design, and specifically that we were understanding which will be the barriers that we will encounter when we began the deployment of the program, but also the risks and how to mitigate those risks. And that's where I believe the most powerful aspect of that public-private collaboration spread, because everyone was, given their ideas and suggesting what kind of policies, either by the regulation or private policies or rules or internal aspects that those FSP could help to mitigate those risks. It was a very, I believe it was a very powerful tool at the end for the design and implementation of the Ingreso Solidario.
Great. Thank you very much. Very interesting. And then in your view, to really practice, principles such as treating users friendly or prioritizing women, how crucial it is to champion the collection of user data in disaggregated forms, particularly to reveal segment-wide trends around transactions, user challenges. And if I may also request you here to share a bit of insights from your existing work where the government is working to deepen customer centricity.
Yeah, Ingreso Solidario reshaped Colombia's social payment platform. The main achievement had to do with switching from the regular money transfer to digital financial inclusion and digital usage, which obviously we as an emerging country had still very low indicators. Preliminary data shows an impressive photo after Ingreso Solidario. 45% of beneficiaries did an additional cash in their mobile wallets after the social payment, and 62% of them used the money on their wallets to begin to make purchases or P2P transactions, which they never had experienced before opening that mobile account. But we need to consolidate this leapfrog effect in financial inclusion and digital adoption. So there is no way that we can return to our starting point. And so the program did not, let's say, enable users to choose which financial services provider they wish to hold the account with. nor it allowed for ATM interoperability. That was something that we create as an emergency, and we didn't have those components taken into account. So these important steps of user choice have now been prioritized and are being extended to other G2P program payment schemes here in the country. We have been working together with other authorities, with the Department of Prosperity, with the Central Bank of Colombia, and of course here with the Ministry of Finance, to shift all social programs to a customer choice model, not just Ingreso Solidario, but all of the rest of them. The new flow is completely disintermediated, allowing us to send the money directly from the treasury into the beneficiary's account at the financial institution that he or she has chosen. Customer centricity is a win-win. We believe it adds efficiency to the government, but perhaps more importantly, it brings long-term relationships between the beneficiary and the financial entity, which ultimately unlocks the value of digital financial inclusion. We are very near to launch a pilot. You have been helping us with a technical support, very valuable for us, serving around 40,000 beneficiaries in 5 municipalities here in the country. And we expect to begin the expansion of this new scheme to the whole social network at the second half of 2022.
Great. Thank you very much, Ana. It's great to see actually how customer centricity and specifically client choice, which I know all of us in the financial inclusion community have been talking about for a while in the context of G2P transfers, is now actually starting to become much more a reality, and seeing how the Colombian government is taking this forward is extremely interesting. I wanted to, the final question before we move on to Madam Poku, wanted to also ask you, in terms of this focus on beneficiaries, right? How important it was during the implementation process, because I know also that the government did some really interesting work in the segmentation of these beneficiaries in the design, looking at their various realities, needs, technology uses. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about what that approach looked like.
Yeah, it was extremely important to focus on beneficiaries' needs. The program was customer-centric. It required a cluster and a stage design, as you were mentioning, to adapt to those beneficiaries' needs. We came up with the stages and process to tackle the numerous challenges posed by reaching these new beneficiaries from whom we didn't have a cell phone or other way to contact them. No. So the first stage was for those already with an account, followed by the unbanked, for whom we came with multiple strategies to include them financially. And in the far rural areas of the country, we delivered the aid by a cash transfer. The program was designed, it was necessary to break down analysis of the target's population, municipal distribution versus the financial sector's coverage of cash out networks. But also analysis of the financial inclusion characteristics of the target population to identify the most appropriate mechanisms to deliver the aid. So we separated the target population between those with access to deposits from those without access to deposit as the main delivery channel for the transfers, identifying beneficiaries according even to the cell phone technology used, since this would determine the alternative channel to facilitate dispersions, and design an alternative process for those beneficiaries not able to reach for the above mentioned means. So we have these three clusters, as I mentioned: the banked beneficiaries, the unbanked beneficiaries, and those who are not possible to reach via mobile phones or did not want to open an account. Yes, we had a lot of concentrating a lot of the attention on the beneficiaries' needs and how we needed to design the whole program to tackle those specific needs. We want to reach fast, but also treat customers fairly. Understanding their needs was crucial to accomplish this goal.
Fascinating, Ana. Thank you very much. I mean, I think the Colombian experience has been now documented actually by the colleagues at the World Bank, as well as with us. We'll be publishing some more research in the coming months, precisely describing what this process was like. And I think that it really, the country has really exemplified what it actually means to be responsible and consumer-centric in the context of a very difficult and challenging situation, but it was great to see how everyone came together for that. So thank you very much. I'll come back to you in a second, but for now, I wanted to move on to talk to Madam Poku from Ghana on the excellent work that the Data Commission has done. And as we start this work, I had one more poll that I wanted to open, which relates actually to data protection and privacy legislation. So I was wondering if perhaps we can open the poll question, if the audience can see it. Let's see. I'm just activating this. In the meantime, while the slide opens, the question is, what percentage of developing countries have adopted data protection and privacy legislation? So there's three options: 33%, 43%, and 66%. So I'm going to give you 10 seconds for all of you to think about it. Hopefully the slide comes on, but it'll just basically feature the question that I just asked you. What percentage of developing countries have adopted data protection and privacy legislation? And once again, the three options are 33%, 43%, and 66%. It seems our poll questions is perhaps no. Oh yeah, it is working actually. So it says that 33% of the audience says 43, and 11% say 66, and 56% say 33. So the actual correct answer is 43% of emerging economies have adopted data protection and privacy legislation, and many of which actually lack the resources to effectively enforce this framework. So I think that's a really strong number to segue to all the work that Madam Poku has done in Ghana. So Madam Poku, welcome again. I wanted to ask you, users are increasingly aware of the risks of data misuse. People are consciously seeking services that protect them against malicious use of personal data. How has the Ghana Data Commission journey in safeguarding client data be by guiding, supporting, and regulating responsible use of data?
Thank you. So in Ghana, we have a very mixed level of awareness in our ecosystem. We have very highly intelligent, very aware, savvy data users. Then we have the middle way, the semi-literate. Then we have the more rural communities and people even in urban areas who cannot read or write or to understand their rights. So it's a mixed delivery of our mandate to support all these users of payment systems that are digitized. We have tried to reach as many directly as possible, but we have done a little more of the work with the major institutions such as the big telecom companies that enable the platforms, the developers, and we have reached out to them sector by sector, engaged with them, offered free webinars and education, especially the post-pandemic period. You're correct in saying that they use I myself have started using digitized payment gateways following the pandemic, and so many more people have onboarded themselves onto these platforms to use other methods of transactions rather than the use of cash. And we have engaged with different sectors involved in this ecosystem. We talk about interoperability of all the different sectors involved. So we work with developers, people who provide payment gateways, banks, and the other users such as the mobile telecom enablers, and engage them to understand their responsibilities under the data protection rules, and generically promoted, not specifically the pushing the law in their faces, but promoting key statements such as we have behind me, getting them to think about how they can open up the interaction between the platforms and the users, and to engage better, joint education of users through multiple channels, leaflets, roadshows, online, and all sorts of engagement even on media, TV, radio, discussions to promote better self-awareness around how you use your app or how you use online platforms to do transactions. And also, we have put a lot more responsibility on the controllers, those who create the app and put it out there, to add more information, additional information for users, not just in text form, but also something that is visual, can be visualized, video forms, flyers that are self-explanatory, like what you've just used in your video here, to increase the understanding at all levels for users and to make it more inclusive in terms of understanding what is required and empowering individuals to also report. We have encouraged mobile providers, the telecom companies, to give us short text messages that could be texted to them to suspected fraudulent activities, or to complain much quicker. And in the commission, when we receive complaints, we do our best to follow it through as quickly as possible, and working collaboratively with the national level team that we have called the National Technical Working Group, which involves all stakeholders that are responsible for protecting the critical national infrastructure. We have in that platform the Data Protection Commission, we have National Security, we have other players like the fraud investigators, we have Bank of Ghana, we have information security specialists, who all around the same table discuss the best solutions to problems that come up in the ecosystem. And I think in so doing, we are promoting awareness, and people are becoming more savvy about the channels for recalls and how to address problems, on raise notifications with us or anyone in that chain, to let others be aware, and engage better with developers to also be aware of what we expect of them as developers, to promote the privacy and the protection and safeguarding of individuals and their data.
Thank you, Madam Poco. I think it's fascinating to see almost this government-wide really approach to the protection of client data, and really looking at all the various touch points as you devise how to ensure actually that this is done in the most effective way. I wanted to then, look at the users themselves, right? Because one of the things that I think that we all struggle with, regardless of where we are, is that because technology has changed so much so quickly the last couple of years, and the proliferation of apps, websites, accounts, passwords, we often are unaware of our own rights and the resources that actually are available, that exist within our own jurisdictions to control our own data. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about how the Commission has made users aware of their rights and the resources to really help them take control of their data. So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, so we were putting out short messages in different forms, in multiple channels, even using social media ourselves to put information, did you know, information out to users, and also creating simple short video messages out to users of our data. We've been going into the ground, into the marketplaces where there's an increased use of apps and online platforms, cashless systems, promoting data protection in a language that makes sense to the people, and telling them in basic terms that they can relate to what their rights are and how they can exercise their rights, or what channels they can use to assert themselves, asking questions before whatever they, simple things like even putting up their PIN number at the end of a transaction, to think twice whether they really want to put their PIN number there, and messages that we have collaboratively worked with mobile developers to promote about think twice before you add your PIN details to complete a transaction, or never share it, especially in our community where we have, especially amongst women, that we will share our PIN numbers with people to complete transactions on our behalf, to not do it, even if it's family. There are TV advertisements that are out there explaining the potential risks around that, and encouraging individuals to own their decisions online for themselves, and to be confident about what they're doing, and to be careful for unknown callers or unknown contacts, and to complain or report such to the relevant quarters that we have distributed out there. And so all these have been put out in the community, and we go also to schools, even though we don't expect the children to be using the digital platforms in the way that the adults should be. We go there and we educate the children, because they go home and they educate the family about what they have learned. So we visit schools, primary schools, tertiary education, secondary schools, and in the assembly, and promote data protection to them, to increase the awareness amongst the youth, expecting that the youth will educate the older population, and also acknowledging the influence the older youth have on children, so that to enable a more widespread understanding of the risks of being online and transactions online, and what could possibly be, and to be aware of the potential tricks that fraudsters would use in the ecosystem. We also show these, and have endorsed TV programs that promote these kind of awareness, that show what kind of tricks that is being used to influence the use of digital platforms, and how it can impact you and your transactions. So we endorse all of these things, and we promote using these multiple channels.
Thank you. Thank you,
The
Madam
right
Poku.
way of safeguarding the data.
Thank you, Madam Poku. This is fascinating. And I think the last question that I wanted to ask you before we move to Pawan is that, again, the Commission has done a really good job at ensuring that providers, take responsibility and are proactively designing user privacy into the products. And I was just wondering if you could give us perhaps, 1 minute, your takeaways from the Commission's implementation process in terms of designing for individuals. What have been the main lessons?
So we are promoting privacy by design, but more recently we've moved slightly above that to say it should be privacy by default, where developers focus more on enabling and prioritizing the privacy of individuals in the way systems are designed, and giving individuals clearer options around what their privacy is and how they should manage it and be in control of it. So we are promoting the more simpler systems that is easier to understand, user-friendly explanations and help that can be used to enable better decision-making or clearer understanding to the users of the system. So this we have done by engaging with the technologists and those who have these innovative, creative ideas in the design and promotion of technology to promote privacy by default in the way systems are developed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Poku. I think that's a great quote, privacy by default. I know that there are a lot of countries are moving and providers are moving towards, having that focus. And I think that we applaud actually the efforts of the government of Ghana and the Commission in protecting client data. I want to now give the opportunity to Pawan Kumar, the Director at the Department of Economic Affairs of the Ministry of Finance. Welcome, Pawan. India has done so much fantastic work over the last years, and the ownership of establishing a vision for an open digital payment system really has been critical to help deliver a smooth digital payments experience, and of course providing more consumer choice. And it's really impressive to see how UPI has grown over the years. The last stats that I read was that it was logging, I think, 3 billion transactions per month on a regular basis, which is pretty impressive. It's probably one of the highest numbers in terms of platforms in the world. And I just wanted to kindly ask you if you could share some significant takeaways from UPI's implementation process, and specifically on how you've framed the goal for an open digital payments environment.
Thanks, Camilo. Just one small correction. The numbers, now the latest figure is 4 billion transaction per month, which is just 2 days back. And
So impressive.
The month previous to that, it was 3.55 billion. The growth that you see, that in a month, it is almost from 3.55 to 4 billion transaction in a month. That is the kind of the growth that we see. And not only this person-to-person payment, in terms of merchant transaction, also for a retail payment system to have crossed $100 billion worth of merchant transactions last month. And that number has grown significantly from 87 billion, which was a month before. So, of course, a lot of it has been facilitated because of the COVID. And but to your core question about the whole design structure, which is designing an interoperable system by design itself. And of course, while in 2016, when UPI came in first, at that point of time, if you see that what was the landscape about the payment system across the globe, in fact, a lot of big emerging countries, a lot of new payment systems were coming up, and they were all being in the form of a particular silos where where the payment system to merchandise, sales, purchase, to entire everything what you have was sort of being pulled by one or two separate types of companies. That is where we saw the potential dangers also. That is the sign that, if this is how the payment system evolves over a period of next decade in a country like India with more than 100 billion population, then in that case we are seeing a scale where fragmentation of the payment system emerges, and at the same time you have winner takes it all. So you will end up having two to three payment systems across working, and the consumers will not be having any choices to select. And that is how the basic theme was, that interoperability has to be ingrained as a part of any payment system that is made in India, particularly the retail payment system. And of course, a lot of these enabling factors have helped over a period of last 7 to 8 years with the very progressive regulator, Reserve Bank of India, along with a lot of policies that was pushed by government as well as the private sector's collaborations also. And so you had this digital identity, then you had the largest financial inclusion program where more than 400 million bank accounts were open, more so 55% which were for women. And so it was sort of the concept was, how do you design? One is that interoperable system, number one. Number two, the vision was that anytime sort of a payment system, and it need not necessarily has to be not a closed loop system. And of course, part of it was that how do you create it in the first place? And the idea was that what is now commonly referred to everywhere, that lessons from India is create digital infrastructure as a public good. And so there was an institution which was thought of that initially you can't expect the private players, because of course they will have certain incentive structure to look at it the way they see, and then you need to have a common infrastructure, digital infrastructure, and then in the form of NPCI, which was created, which was basically as a trusted switch on which lot of these payment companies, these banks, as well as payment service providers can rope in. The fantastic thing about the beauty of this whole protocol is that it is designed as a protocol, of course, as a standard common language. And while all these banking instruments, banking channels are part of it, but at the same time, it allows you all sorts of innovations where a lot of these public payment service providers are also working and innovating. So, of course, the whole system was that interoperability and citizens' a choice while deciding the way that their payment system would be rolled out. That was, of course, the key. And it has the collaboration was, if I have to say, that collaboration was the key theme, because it involved collaboration with the different stakeholders, a lot of consultations, and of course, over a period of time, many of the of the innovation that had come in, including the Aadhaar, which is the largest biometric exercise in the world.
Thank you. Of course, there were so many different components here, but I really think that collaboration between NPCI, METI, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, RBI, and really having that really long-term vision of an open ecosystem, I think was crucial to achieve all the great results, and of course now serves as lots of lessons. I mean, Anna was talking at the beginning about the work that they're doing on open finance, and I think a lot of countries are looking towards the lessons from India and what can be then incorporated into their own experiences. I wanted to ask you also about protection of funds. So with all this growth now, 4 billion transactions monthly that are running through UPI, how has UPI, in accordance to basically the UN principles to protect client funds and client data, could you offer some insights in terms of how you think that experience has taken place?
Yes, thanks, Camilo, for this very important question. This is about how do you protect and make the funds accessible. At the same time, how do you safeguard the client's data? So I will come one by one. Regarding the funds protection and accessibility. So UPI, as you know, is a system wherein the transfer is from one bank account to another bank account. So if you ask a question is whether can the money get lost anywhere, the answer is clear no, because at any point of time, there is no third party or custodian of the money. The money remains within your bank account. So either it is transferred or it is not transferred. So either the transaction is successful or it is non-successful. And so the very fact that there is no separate wallet where the money has to be stored before they had to be used, that makes the funds completely accessible and protected in the hands of the consumers. Now, coming to another part is about the fact that this is transferring funds from one regulated channel to another, and then there are two-factor authentication process, wherein your smartphone itself has been made one as a device, which is one factor of authentication, and along with the PIN number. While any transaction is completed, SMS is sent to about the completion of the transaction or rejection of the transaction to both, to the initiator of the transaction as well as the recipient. And at the same time, they have the right to challenge the transaction within the application itself. Another part of this whole exercise is that there is of course, as I mentioned earlier, that NPCI works as a switch in between, and then there is a deferred net settlement, which happens many times during the day, and there is a settlement fund, guarantee settlement fund, which has been kept by NPCI, of course, with the contribution of all these payment service providers. So that ensure that the settlements are timed, and then there is no loss of funds. For the disputes, that there are mechanisms, you can log in the dispute within the application itself. Then there is online dispute resolution mechanism, which is by Reserve Bank of India, as well as there is a separate scheme for ombudsman, where also you can actually log in. So in terms of protection and accessibility, in fact, this system is fairly good, and that there is no problem as such. Regarding the second part about this safeguarding of the client data, as you know, that this whole UPI system very minimum amount of the data is being collected. In fact, the very fact that you can transfer the money to someone else while you know only their virtual payment address without knowing the account number, without knowing which bank the person has an account, or without exchanging any further information. So the very fact that the client data is secured, in a sense that minimal data is shared, and the platform proactively it specifies that the participating payment service providers must rigorously protect user data in the form of encrypted channels, scrambled stored passwords, and many further technologies. And so yes, in fact, both these the guidelines are very fairly followed by UPI.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pawan. So I think we only have 6 more minutes left, and there's some great questions actually from the audience. So I just wanted to see if perhaps we can take a look at them. There was a question, I think, from Alexander Rizzi, which said, with the future of digital social protection likely to be reliant on private-public partnerships, especially when there might be data sharing as part of the targeting or eligibility, what kind of frameworks or measures should these partnerships put in place to protect consumer data and address issues like data retention and consent? Wondering perhaps who wants to take this question? Maybe Anna?
I can take it.
Yeah. Just a brief maybe comment on the question. Excellent question. I do think that's the future. I do believe that we are beginning to see the power of that public-private partnership, especially regarding the implementation of new technologies, the implementation of innovation itself, and navigating the challenges of taking advantage of data without putting in risk the customer, its privacy, or in general, the bad use of data around it. I believe governments and authorities in general need to learn much more about those subjects and how to navigate those areas. And private sector is definitely a perfect stakeholder, a perfect partner for those learnings. So yes.
Thank you very much, Anna. Pawan, anything to add?
Yeah, yes. I mean, very interesting development. Of course, what is happening in India is about data protection architecture, that we have now an account aggregator framework, wherein essentially what we say is that empower the consumer for the data for their own good. And through this open banking network, which is our version of open banking, which is encrypted form, the information exchange flow is happening, and then there is a consent architecture which is built into the system. We are going to put it to the great use in coming years now. In fact, the whole open credit enablement network that we're talking about, wherein empowering consumer through their own data with their own consent architecture without creating a separate sort of a custodian of these data, that is the future. And going forward, a lot of these social protection programs, we already have a lot of social protection now linked to, say, for example, unique identity, which is Aadhaar. And this was already a subject matter of detailed deliberations with the highest court of the country, wherein the framework has been put about how do you use this data, and the right to privacy has been recognized as a right for every citizen. So the balancing between the right of privacy at the same time allowing users with their consent to use the data for their own advantage, that's the future.
Great. Thank you very much, Pawan. So I think we're pretty much out of time. So I'm just going to wrap quickly. But I think thank you again to all of you for participating in this panel and sharing your experiences. It's been a fantastic experience. I mean, it is evident from, the experience of Ingreso Solidario in Colombia, with the Data Commission in Ghana and UPI, that the UN principles, are really a solid framework to ensure that governments are really bridging these efforts to digital financial inclusion and gender financial parity. Prioritizing women, obviously, we've seen it has become a key role in the successful journey of all the 3 countries, and it's really vital that products and really reflect the needs of women, their lived realities, through data analysis, that we really focus take a gender inclusive approach, and more importantly, the protection of data. Madam Boku, data privacy by default, I think is definitely a quote that we're going to keep remembering. I mean, I think that to really unleash the full potential of digital payments, the industry as a whole must overhaul its approach to data protection. And we're hoping that with the continuous implementation of the principles, we'll see a significant improvement in this area, as well as on the areas of gender inclusivity. So again, thank you again to all of you for being part of this panel today. We hope that the recording will be on the website, and we hope to see you all soon. Thank you very much for participating today.
Thank you. Thank you, Camilo, and everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.